Hey, how's it going? This is Shamboy Papanza, and I'll be doing an objective interpretation of Trump's private recordings. Normally, I do comedy, I do trolls, but this time I'll be doing something serious in light of the hype and hysteria surrounding the salacious comments of Donald Trump that were taken in a private setting. Mainstream media and many independent news organizations claim that these recordings show him admitting that he has sexually assaulted many females and supposedly prove the monster he is. Because of the tremendous amount of hype and media manipulation, even many Trump supporters are jumping on the bandwagon. But I'm convinced that few people have actually taken a step back and objectively analyzed these recordings. Because if they did, they would find that these recordings certainly don't give any evidence whatsoever of any assault or any harassment. That's why I thought it was necessary for someone to step in and objectively interpret these texts, simply by using the skills we picked up from analyzing literary text in English class, or that some of us have learned by analyzing legal documents. In other words, tune out the hysteria, look at the context, and objectively read the comments for what they are. When doing this, I promise you that what comes out is very different than what the media portrays. The context is a private setting. It's recorded without his knowledge, and it's not in a professional situation. And finally, it's said extemporaneously. In my circle of people who I know well, everyone has said shocking things at some point in their life, especially in private. Not necessarily about sex, but the whole range. I myself am guilty of that, so leeway does have to be given. What we'll do, we're going to take a look at the two sound bites which are played the most and which elicit the most amount of outrage. But before reading them, remember, judge the quotes on their face as if we were reading a literary text in English class or interpreting the meaning of a legal document. I know this sounds silly, but so many Americans, including very reflective people, and even Trump supporters, have immediately jumped on the bandwagon without taking a step back to think. You can see on the screen the text from the first soundbite that I'll read. Trump, you know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Bush, whatever you want. Trump, grab him by the pussy. You can do anything. The key phrase in this text is, they let you do it. It's key because when someone lets you do something, it's clear consent. And when there's consent, there's no sexual assault. Not even harassment. That's why there's no admission or even hint of sexual assault here. It's simple as that. Any objective judge would come to the same conclusion if this were before the courts. Now, of course, an exception could be argued in several instances, for example, if you were talking about minors or employees of his, because of a lack of equal footing. But he doesn't mention that here, so there's no need to extrapolate or confuse the issue. Let's take a look at the second text. Trump, I moved on her actually. You know, she was down on Palm Beach. I moved on her and I failed. I'll admit it. Unknown, Woa. Trump, I did try and fuck her. She was married. Unknown, that's huge news. Trump, no, Nancy. This was, and I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there. And she was married. If we read this text carefully and objectively, it's quite clear that the phrase, moving on her very heavily, or moving on her like a bitch, is qualified by Trump taking the woman out furniture shopping. And yes, I'd have to agree, if he's buying her furniture with the goal of getting laid, that really is moving on her very heavily, or so to speak, moving on her like a bitch. She obviously said no. He obviously respected this, since he says several times he failed and didn't get anywhere. Now, of course, had he said, for example, that she kept on saying no, but he got his way at the end, then yes, there would be an argument for assault and even rape. But according to him, he didn't get anywhere. So there isn't even any assault. Of course, he could be lying, but that's not the question. The question, again, is whether or not he is admitting to sexual assault or harassment in either of these recordings. And the clear answer is no. Now, do I like the type of mentality which exudes from these recordings? No, of course not. I find it offensive. It's superficial and disgusting. And unfortunately, it's shared by many Americans. I didn't like Trump to begin with, and this only confirms what I think already. But again, we have to keep it real and confirm that nowhere in these quotes is there any admission or allegation of sexual assault or harassment whatsoever. I'm sure that many people who listen to mainstream media are going to bring up the fact that all these women are accusing Trump now of sexual assault and harassment. These same people will also claim that this validates the media's spin on the two sound bites I just read. But this is completely faulty logic. First of all, the women making these accusations are not the ones he's talking about in the recordings. Second of all, these are just bare accusations with absolutely no corroborative evidence. And unlike with Bill Clinton, there's no settlement, no accusers are murdered, no witnesses are murdered. And what diminishes the validity of these bare accusations even more is the timing, meaning the fact that practically all of them are coming out less than a month before the election. And most importantly, the fourth one is, thanks to WikiLeaks, we now know that the DNC has a propensity to concoct such abject accusations. For example, we know that they plan to put out a disgustingly sexist and offensive ad on Craigslist and claim that it was Trump who did it. Again, I want to repeat this before leaving, the fact that these recordings were said in a private setting, and they were recorded without Trump's knowledge. It was not in a professional context, and it was said extemporaneously. And if we are going to take the worst things that most Americans, men and women, have said at a few points in their entire lives, I'm almost positive we would find worse, much worse. I hope this was informative. Tell me what you think in the comment section.